Okay, today we're going to do some notes when we have trinomials, but where a is greater than the 1. So, for instance, it's similar when a trinomial of a equals 1, but this time we need to look at that all the factors of ac have to equal the sum. So not just all the factors of c equal sum, but the factors of a times c. So let's take a look at this. There's a couple different methods, and the first method is by grouping. So the first thing you ask yourself is, do you have a greatest common factor that you can factor out of everything to simplify the problem down? But 5, 13, and 6, we don't have a greatest common factor. So that means that my a is equal to 5, my b is equal to negative 13, and c is equal to 6. That means I need to find the factors of a times c, or 5 times 6, that have a sum of negative 13. So let's make a t-chart and find our factors. So I know that since my 6 is positive and my 13 is a negative, I need to find the two negative factors of 30 that equal 6. So let's list out our factors. I have negative 1 and negative 30, and that gives me negative 31. I have negative 2 and negative 15. That's going to give me negative 17. I'm getting there. Negative 3 and negative 10. Well, that's going to give me my negative 13. So I'm going to use the factors of negative 3 and negative 10. Now, I can rewrite the trinomial and replace the bx, which is the negative 13x, with my negative 3 and negative 10. So I get 5x squared minus 3x minus 10x plus 6. This part right here is the same thing as the negative 13, so I can do that. Okay, now let's look at the terms that have common factors. I have 5x squared and I have negative 10x. Those have some common factors, so I'm going to rewrite it so they're next to each other. And negative 3x and positive 6 has some common factors, so we're going to rewrite it that way. Okay, now let's factor out these common factors. In this part here, I can factor out a 5x, and I'm left with x minus 2. And in this section here, I can factor out a negative 3, and I'm left with x. 6 divided by negative 3 is negative 2. Now if you notice, I have two common factors there. So I can use my distributive property and rewrite it. So 5x minus 3 times x minus 2. And there's my answer, and now it's all factored. And to check my work, if I FOIL it, 5x times x is x squared, negative 3x plus negative 10x gives me the negative 13x, and negative 3 times negative 2 gives me the positive 6. Okay, that's one method. The second method is called the Berry method. And what you do on this one is you just kind of set up your trinomials first, okay? So, or your binomials. So you set up the binomial, okay? And since the second number is negative, that means that, and the third number is positive, that means I have to have a positive and a minus. All right, the next step is that I just write the 6x in the first spot. Now I know that's not going to be the final answer because 6x times 6x would give me 36x squared, but it's just part of the process. Okay, so we write or copy the first term in each binomial. Okay, now let's find the factors of AC, which in this time is 6 and 12. So 6 times 12 is going to give me 72. All right, Now, we're looking for a positive and a negative. So my factors for 72 that equal a sum of 1. All right, so 1 and 72 obviously isn't going to get that. 2 and 36 isn't going to get me there. Let's see. If we do 3, I'm going to have, let's see, what would we have? 72 divided by 3 gives me 24. That's not going to get me there. Wait a minute. 8 and 9 are factors of 72, and 9 minus 8 is equal to 1. So there we go. So I'm going to add my 9 with the positive and use the 8 with the negative. Great. Now what I need to do is I need to see what I can factor out from each of these. 6x, let's see, so factor out any commons. Okay, so 6x plus 9, I can factor out a 3. So I'm left with 2x plus 3, right? And on the 6x minus 8, I can factor out a 2. And I'm left with 3x minus 4. The 3 and the 2 go away, and I'm left with 2x plus 3 times 3x minus 4. And let's check our work. 2x times 3x gives me 6x squared. 9x minus 8x gives me x. And 3 times negative 4 give me negative 12. So that's my final factored form. Okay? All right, let's try one more method. This one's with a double factor. It works kind of like the grouping, but without actually having to go through the grouping step. So if we have a is equal to 5, b is equal to negative 13, and c is equal to 6, I make my t-chart and find my factors just like I did the first time. All right, so I need my factors of 30 that have a sum of 1. Okay, and so we go through the chart again, and again we know that since both positive, or the positive, but they're both negative. Okay, so now we can say, all right, well, 1 and 30 is not going to get it. My 2 and my 15's not going to get it because that'd be negative 31, that'd be negative 17. But my negative 3 and my negative 10, that gives me negative 13. Perfect. Now, factor those factors. Negative 3 gives me a factor of 1 and 3. And negative 10 gives me factors of 2 and negative 5. Now I use these 4 factors to put into the 4 spots that I need to fill for my binomials. Well, I'm looking for a 5x. That means we're going to use the negative 2 and a positive 5. 5 times 1 is going to give me my 5x squared. And then I have to put so that I'm going to get my so I'm going to put so that I get my doubles and negatives. I need negative 3 and a negative 10. Well, 5 times 2 gives me my 10, and 1 times 3 gives me my negative 3. And I get to the exact same factor. There's a couple other ways, lots of different ways. This is definitely one of those that whichever way is the easiest for you and how your brain sees it, it will all work.